Thank you so very much for joining us on the Morning Splash. My name is Chris Jacobs, and of course, today we shall be having discussions, that has to do with issues that could better the narrative of Nigeria in terms of education. As at yesterday, to this moment, a report that about 7,000 out of school children in Lagos are scavengers. But what is it that the government is yet to do or have not yet done? And where are the loopholes? And what happens to experts who have this technical know-how to refurbish and revitalize that education sector, whether through entrepreneurial development or other means? But the bane of it all, lies on the economic viability of the nation, which of course an educated nation, of course, is a wealthy nation. And these, in a pretty short while, I'm going to be engaging Engineer Bello Tongo, who will, of course, talk to us on why and how they, first of all, conceptualize the dream and the concept to building a strong society that is educated. It's the morning splash on FM 91.1, reaching you live and exclusively from our Bajaburi Hills, and this is the morning splash. My name is Chris Jacobs. A very good morning to you. All right, you're welcome back. If you just joined us, you're listening to the Morning Splash on FM 91.1. And I've been joined by Engineer Bello Tongo, who, of course, is with a Tongston non-governmental organization whose vision is to infuse education in the society, particularly those who have been less privileged as a result of whatever phenomenal it is. Engineer, a very good morning to you, and nice to have you join us on the Morning Splash.
Good morning, Chris. Very nice to be here, and nice meeting you first time.
That's right.
Yes.
Now, first of all, we've seen where a lot of NGOs, whether partners, whether unions, who are concerned about education, and a lot of these, multifaceted approach by individuals, came to be as a result of the fallout of Boko Haram insurgency, in the northeastern part of Nigeria. And that, of course, have given a lot of impetus. But what birthed, this vision, Engineer Bello, for you also to take on this responsibility of education the general populace?
Yes, thank you very much. So I think this goes back a few years ago when I went to university in the UK and went to study civil engineering, which is why you may be wondering why I'm an engineer, but in education.
That's right.
So I went with the intention of studying civil engineering, come back and contribute to the development of my state, Gombe State, and Northeast, and then Nigeria as a whole, with Africa also. But then upon coming back, I realized the problem we have actually is not lack of construction or people that can even do the construction and everything in civil engineering, but it's actually something bigger, which is education. And what we have noticed, and which is also tied to what you see now, the out of school children, Boko Haram, every other thing that is going on in the education system, unemployability, because you have your certificate and you still cannot get a job, and yet you're educated on paper. So what we have realized is that the problem is that the education, is supposed to supply. When you look at supply and demand in economics, education is supposed to create the supply or supply what's been demanded for by the industry and by life. But in order for this to happen, this equation to happen, you need to understand that this life, we are constantly going to be challenged socially and also economically. So that's why they call it the socio-economic life or socio-economic world. So their point is that education must provide for the socio-economic needs of individuals, of organizations, and also of communities for it to really achieve its true purpose. And so this is what gave birth to the idea of entrepreneurial thinking as we conceptualize it, so that especially on the professional and enterprise side of things.
That's right.
Education actually provides a high level of development in that space, because as you know, it's mainly in every economy, it's usually the enterprises and the businesses that will actually drive economy, and then government provides the environment to enable that.
That's correct.
So this is what is believed.
But sometimes, what do you make of the perception that education could be the panacea, to unemployment, to solving the issue of unemployment?
Yes.
But the Nigerian educational system, is designed and wired in such a way that the mindset of the young Nigerians after graduation is to get a white-collar job, because they have not been trained, in skills acquisition. So it's more of a paperwork. But what do you think that one can do, or your organization, is doing to disabuse the minds of young Nigerians, concerning the white-collar job, but rather translating that education they've gotten in the classroom, to reality?
Yes. Actually, if you notice, I said entrepreneurial education, right?
That's
not
correct.
Entrepreneurship education. One will think it's the same thing.
Now, what are the differences?
Yes, for us, the idea of entrepreneurial education is actually something that can lead you to entrepreneurship, possibly, but it can also lead you to employment. So the same white-collar jobs that you're talking about still can be achieved through entrepreneurial education. Now, entrepreneurial education within the space of employment or getting white-collar job or even any other job means you are educated in a way that you can think like the owner of the organization you're looking for. So like Gotel, for instance, if I was educated entrepreneurially, when I come to look for a job or even existing as an employee of Gotel, I'm thinking of Gotel as my own enterprise.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm thinking like the owner.
But if you think like the owner of the organization, what impact does it make to the organization, and what does it add up to you as an individual?
Yes, first it makes you more employable than the other person, or even it makes you more valuable than the other candidate or other employees. Why? Because you are thinking beyond just doing your own typical job. So for us, you're thinking of also, the brand of Gotel, beyond just your day-to-day. You're also thinking of how your existence in Gotel will add to the brand of Gotel, how influential they are within their market space. You're thinking of the value of products and services that Gotel provides. You're also thinking of the profitability of Gotel. So that is what it means to think entrepreneur. But if you think about it also, this is only what the owner or the CEO or the entrepreneur thinks about. An employee doesn't think about these things. So the problem of unemployment and what's causing now issue of maybe youths affecting society in a negative way, or even other issues that we're facing right now, is that there is high unemployability. So it's not even an issue of unemployment. If you are this person that is thinking for the white-collar job and that you are thinking like the owner or even more valuable than another candidate, it makes you more employable. So that way you are not unemployed basically, and you have really better chance of getting a job. But as I said, it can also lead to that entrepreneurship route also. So if you want to start up a business also, you should do it the right way. You should think along those three lines that I talked about: building the right brand, building the right valuable products, and also building a very profitable enterprise. So it's either of these two ways. That is what entrepreneurial education leads to.
That's right.
Whether the white-collar job that you're talking about, or even the blue collar, or
whatever color job
whatever color, or your own business. So the two can both be achieved.
But like, what is obtainable in in other climes? You've been in the UK, and you understand government policies. These policies actually enabling environment. They're enablers, for individuals, like you, just any common man who can ride on that in enabling environment. But here in Nigeria, you might as well agree with me that it's a little bit of variations here. How does then the government policy here in the country helps in you actualizing, this vision?
So this also, we experienced it for the past 2 years that we've been existing. Some policies are a bit of a headache, to grapple with in order to achieve what we want to achieve. Thankfully, they have kind of, at the government level, especially with the CAMA, the adjustment of the CAMA, the Company and Allied Matters Act, of CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission, and other few things that they've been doing through CBN, with funding and a few policies that they've been bringing in now have kind of started making things easy, but it's still not at the level of the outside country as we talked about. So what's important is that as much as possible, you need to really make sure you don't depend too much on government. Of course, the environment it helps if it's really there, but to a high extent, if you really build your enterprise or even your business, whatever you are creating, if you really make sure that it doesn't have too much dependence on what policy of government exists, then the better you are in maybe a position of not too much headache and frustration. But as you said, it's good that government actually really makes sure, whether at the state and even at the federal level.
Because I've seen a situation where quite a number of persons, even after graduation, try to practice their expertise. They will tell you that yes, the government has spoken about creating an enabling environment, but capital. They will tell you that without substantial capital, an amount, at least there should be a reasonable amount for you to get so that you organize yourself that much better. So finance, some business can be capital intensive.
Yes, exactly. So even on the financial side, government is still doing, as I said, through so many different vehicles of CBN, they are providing that enabling environment to access those finance. But also at the private sector level, through certain foundations and also other competitions that exist. Even Tongston, we have an investment arm that we are trying to invest in startups. But the other thing is that also maybe it's also one of the reasons why people are not really accessing those finances, that those businesses are not built and structured at the level that it's needing that finance. So I normally tell people that the problem is not the money, it's the idea. It's not well formed enough for it to attract that investment. There's enough money in this world, whether it's from the CBN or from the private sector commercial banks or from other vehicles around the continent. If you go on the internet, there are so many grants and so many other finances available for startups. But is the idea right enough to attract that investment? Yes, and as I told you, even we are facing the same thing. Our investment company also is seeing so many ideas. Just a few days ago, a friend of mine sent me her business idea of something clothing related, but when I analyzed it, it's not ready for investment. So I'm worried if I give my money, if we invest in this business, we are going to lose the money.
But it's been said that education is expensive, globally. I don't know, maybe it's just an opinion, individual opinion, but it is said that it's expensive. So how does business help in financing education? Because you need money to finance education, and for that money to come, and of course get more productive, there has to be a business. Education shouldn't be run on its own. You need money to finance education.
Yes, exactly.
So how connected is it, an imperative?
Yes. So where does that money come from? It can either come from free, meaning parents and family, or it can come from a job, or it can come from business, as you said, to finance it. Like for me, I've been privileged enough that it came mainly from my parents and my family, right? But right now, you need to also observe that education are more and more, especially since the COVID time, is becoming more and more available and free online.
Yes. But now when you say online, you cannot completely discard those in the rural areas, from this very policy. And there are a lot of them who are not privileged, to be connected to internet or to have a smartphone, even electricity supply in those areas. Isn't that a bit of a challenge?
It is a challenge indeed. It is very much a challenge. And unfortunately, one can also say they should just depend on the schools or the free education that they have within that's the government provided institutions within their localities. One cannot really depend on that also. But unfortunately, that's where we are. And it's also something that maybe with more avenue of the private sector coming into those, because so many of these institutions, like the private sector ones, they have so many CSR programs, but the problem is that even if they say they are looking to provide it for the less privileged ones, they don't really go too much to the rural areas. So maybe this is where also the private sector, like people like us, need to also come in, because remember, it's not just the government side that are there at the rural level or the less privileged level. We also have to make our own effort to come there.
And one of the biting issues when it comes to education in these rural areas, I did a little bit of research and documentary some times ago.
Yes.
The West African Examination Council, JAM, UTME, whatever exams that is legally accepted nationally, is written without distinctions. Distinction in the sense that you can't say, since this person is living in rural areas, the wire questions will be different or should be different from that which is given in those living in metropolitan city. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's still in balance, and there is this unfair distribution of what should have been evenly distributed. The same questions, in those schooling in the state capital should also go the same question just in rural areas. But what makes these questions justifiable is, as in what makes the response to these questions justifiable is the level playing ground, where the access to education on the side of those in the rural areas is same as the access to education on the side of those in the city.
Yes. So for that, obviously the same WAEC, the same JAM, and the same NECO is what's been administered, right? But the few things that we have observed that we that are now practicing the education space is that, forget even the aspect of admission of JAM score or 160 or whatever it is, which was a bit of a controversy some few years ago when they said, why is it that when somebody comes from the rural or from maybe northern part of the country, why is it that their own cutoff mark is lower than people from other parts of the country? The thing is, if you look at the blend of questions also,
that's correct.
Yes, so there's something we call in Bloom's taxonomy in education. So the lowest level of it is just remember. Being able to remember something. The next level is understanding. Next level, application, analysis, evaluation, and creation. So if you look at the questions within the WAECs and the JAMs, especially the WAEC, which is a general one, there is a bit of blend between the two. So the easiest thing, especially if you cannot really access good quality education, is you should be able to at least remember something or memorize and just remember. So those are the ones, those are the kind of blend of things. So it's almost like saying the WAEC organizers of those questions have, within the questions themselves, created some kind of balance of easy questions plus the hard questions. But that is only enough for you to get you an average score. Because if you go to the essay part of the question, you need to do application level, and that is where the less privileged will struggle with. So unfortunately, even within the quality of questions, they have made the effort to make a balance between the two access-wise, but
all right. Well, on a final note, Engineer Bello, where do you see Tongston in the next 5 years from now with these beautiful policies and vision conceptualized? Where do you see Tongston going in the next 5 years?
Yes, well, we see ourselves really doing as much as possible impact-wise within the public sector space, especially public education, whether it's from the primary level to the secondary, tertiary, post-tertiary. Reason is because impact-wise, that's where the most population is in terms of students, teachers, and even the schools themselves. So we try as much as possible in the locations that we're in and also in other parts of the country to make sure that we work with the public school system so that this vision, this new idea that we're bringing in education is going to be really impactful across a mass scale of people and participants. But as much as possible, we also are trying to come in directly to the communities and upskill the teachers, the students, and even the quality of the schools that exist. So this is what we are looking forward to in the next few years.
All right, interesting. Yes. Well, it's been very analytical talking with you this morning, Bello. And indeed, I wish you the best. And of course, we'll still, we hope to have your doors open. We'll knock on it for you to come also to give us, Nigerians, as a matter of fact, nuggets when it comes to building and impacting lives, now that the statistics have shown that the number of out of school children is becoming so alarming and growing, on a very unprecedented manner. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Chris.
All right.
Yes.
Well, listening to the Morning Splash, just had a conversation with engineer Bello Tongo, and that's talked about what they are doing to, influence more education in Adamawa State, not just Adamawa State, but Nigeria as a whole. Today, it's a bumper pack, segment of discussion. I will also be playing host in a pretty short while to the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Social Mobilization, and we'll be looking at or spotlighting, open door policy of the People's Democratic Party and the ongoing primaries. And these, of course, and many more will be part of the conversation on the show today. We'll take a short break. It's still the Morning Splash, live and exclusive from our studio in Bajapuri Hills. Victor, don't go.
Why do I say
we talk for over 20 something minutes.
Yeah.